Hi guys, so everybody keeps asking me to do videos or instructions on how to cook things. So today I am going to be making a risotto. It's going to be sweet corn and red pepper risotto topped with a piece of blackened salmon. So today for our ingredients, red peppers, fresh sweet corn, some green onions, butter, arborio rice, salt and pepper, Parmesan cheese, some chopped garlic, some shallots, some green onions. These are all the ingredients. So first off, we're going to start by putting some butter into a pan that's on medium heat just to get it nice and melted. We don't want it to burn or to brown. So as you can see, I started with 3 tablespoons of butter that's starting to melt. And to that butter, I'm going to add the red peppers. And I'm going to add the sweet corn along with the green onion. Then we're going to give it a pinch of salt and pepper to help it sweat. We don't want any caramelization or color on this. We just want to sweat it, keep it moving, and let it sweat on medium heat. We're going to go here for about 10 to 15 minutes. And in 10 to 15 minutes, we'll be back and you'll see exactly what this is going to look like. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes and these vegetables are nice and soft. So now we're going to remove these from the pan and put them in a bowl on the side. Okay, now that the vegetables have been removed from the pan and they're in a bowl on the side, we are now going to add 3 more tablespoons of butter into the pot. Keeping the pot over medium heat, melt the butter gently. And then we're going to add the shallot, as well as the minced garlic. And saute that just for about a minute or two until everything becomes fragrant. Okay, so it's been about a minute or two, and now I'm going to add another little pinch of salt and pepper. Give it another quick little stir. And you can see how the vegetables have softened up a little bit. The shallots are starting to become a little translucent. That's exactly what we're looking for. At this time, we are now going to add the arborio rice. And we are going to toast the rice and coat it in all that butter just for a few moments until it starts to become a little translucent. Remember, all this time we're still keeping the heat on medium. We're not going any higher than that. While the rice is toasting, in the back I have a pan of clam broth actually heating up. So that this way we can add it into the rice at the time. I like using clam broth because I am serving seafood today, but if you don't want to use clam broth, you could use chicken broth, you could use vegetable broth, you could do any type of broth that you want. So we're going to continue stirring and toasting this and be back in just a moment. Okay, now you can see the rice has started to change color a little bit, and the house is starting to smell a little toasty from the rice. Now we are going to add the white wine, about a half a cup of white wine. Remember, don't use anything that you wouldn't drink. Cheers. Now once you add the wine, you want to continue stirring so that the rice absorbs all that wine. Yes, we're starting out with drunken rice. Now, if you look, the pan is almost dry. The rice has absorbed all the wine. Now it's time to start adding some of the stock. We're going to add it 1 or 2 ladlefuls at a time, just to keep it covered. And we're going to keep stirring this until the rice gets exactly to the texture that we want, which is al dente. In the meantime, we are going to start now working the salmon while the rice is absorbing all this liquid. As you see, while the rice is cooking, it is throwing out a lot of starch into the liquid, and it's absorbing up all that broth, and it's time to add a little bit more. So once again, 1 ladle at a time, just to keep it nice and loose, and continue stirring. Now, for the salmon, we're going to start over here, and we have 2 beautiful 8-ounce salmon fillets, some Cajun seasoning, a little oil, and some salt and pepper. First thing I'm going to do is season the salmon with a little salt and pepper on either side. And yes, I do salt and pepper in little cups on the side like that, so this way I can not have to worry about contaminating a whole lot of it by using my fingers the way that I am. Proper sanitation is always the best thing to do. Now, once you have your salmon covered like that on both sides with salt and pepper, you're going to dredge only the flesh side, only the top, in Cajun seasoning or blackened seasoning, whatever you prefer. I use a no salt one, so that this way I can control the amount of salt that I'm using. Once you have a nice coating on the salmon like this, you will then just dip it into the oil lightly, and then right into a hot cast iron pan. And then once again, the same thing with the other fillet. Dip it into the Cajun seasoning, get a nice coating on it, into the oil, and right into the cast iron pan. And now we're going to let that sit until it gets nice and blackened on the one side. We will flip it over and then put it in the oven. Be back in a couple of minutes to show you what that's going to look like. So it's been a couple of minutes in the cast iron pan, and now I'm going to turn the salmon over. Beautiful. You see that nice blackened on the top? That's exactly what we're looking for. Oh, that's sexy food right there. That is sexy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that and put it into a preheated 350-degree oven just for a couple of minutes for the fish to fully cook, and then the skin on the bottom will get nice and crispy. In the meantime, we're going to still keep stirring this risotto over here, which is going to take more time, but you can see how nice and thick and velvety it's getting from the starch that's being thrown out of the rice. And I've been adding a ladleful of the broth in at a time, every time it starts to look a little dry. So I'm going to put the salmon in the oven and keep stirring the rice and be back in just a few moments. Okay, so I just pulled the salmon out of the oven. You can see how nice and beautiful it looks. I'm going to take its temperature because I want to see that it gets up to approximately 125 degrees. 125 is perfect temperature for salmon. I'm at 127. I'm very contented with that, so I'm going to stop right there. The risotto is still going strong. You can see it's how smooth and creamy it's gotten and how thick. Time to add almost the last bit of broth that we have. There's not much left. I pretty much judged this accurately. That should be the last addition I'm going to have to do. We're going to keep cooking and stirring this and get back to you as soon as it's ready. So it's been a couple of minutes. All the liquid has been added. I had to add about 1/4 cup more of just water to it because it was still a little tough. Depending upon your rice, it made a little more, a little less liquid, but that's okay. Now, I know it looks a little runny right now, and that's okay. I'm going to shut off the heat. I'm going to give it a good stir. And now I'm going to add in the last 2 tablespoons of the butter that I had reserved. Okay, and we're going to stir that in quickly. As we're agitating it, we're breaking up more starch off the rice, so that's going to thicken it up even more. And then, to gild the lily, let's add the Parmesan cheese. And I have to say, I usually use Parmesan, or my preference is actually Romano. It's a little bit sharper, got a little bit more bite to it. Difference between Parmesan and Romano, one is a cow's milk cheese, one is a sheep's milk cheese. So you can see how thick and gorgeous this looks. Now we're going to go back and we'll add in the corn and the peppers and the green onions we cooked earlier, as well as some of the green onion tops that we had reserved, because that was being added in at the last minute just to give some nice fresh color to it. Give it a quick stir. And look at how beautiful that looks. That is a beautiful sweet corn and red pepper risotto. Now it's time to plate. It's always best to try to make pretty food, make it look as good as possible. So in this case, I'm going to put it on a blue plate so it really does stand out. And you can see how gorgeous that looks. And then we're going to top it with our piece of salmon. Nestle that right in there. Sprinkle some more green onion over the top. Doesn't that look good? And just to give it a little finish, a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. And that, my dears, is blackened salmon with a roasted, with a red pepper and corn risotto. Hope you enjoy it. Have a great night.